Morning Dish.
He's the hardest working man in show business. His band's music takes you into the midnight hours. And when you wake up, his voice is back on your radio alarm clock. How on earth did this happen?
Well, Jeff saw me taking out the trash at the radio station.
And he won another award.
But this one is better.
I'm your boogeyman. That's what I am.
It's the Morning Dish with the 2019 Radio Personality of the Year winner, Stephen Phillips.
You paying attention to this, Packy?
And Murphy's own Sherry Raines.
Yeah, you must have given horseback passes to the right guy, Stephen.
Well, giddy up.
And Packy Smith's Shetland pony is right alongside.
You guys know these demo tapes don't just edit themselves together, right?
Well, all right.
3 cheers for Stephen Phillips.
Y'all need to help Stephen Phillips out over there. Out the door and off the radio.
Here's Stephen
All
Phillips.
righty, folks, we're back with you, and I'm guessing we've probably got the man here that's got the largest Hurst shifter collection cars in the world and owns the HEMI Under Glass, Joe Spagnoli.
He's been practicing that for like 5
I'm
minutes.
dyslexic. It works on me. How are you this morning?
I'm awesome. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good. It'd have to be awesome to wake up every morning and know that you actually got HEMI Under Glass in the garage.
It is one of the best pieces of car porn to look at.
Again, so how did you come about obtaining this car? I mean, this is something I've never thought would ever break out of the hands of the owner.
Well, Bob Riggle, who, drove the car for 50-plus years and campaigned it, has been a lifelong friend and, kind of a mentor to me, and obviously knew my love of the brand. And after, everything that happened with the car and all those years, his wife had been begging him to retire for some years, and he looked at me one day, said he's thinking about selling the car and sending it to Barrett Jackson. And I looked at him and I said, man, I'd love to own that car. And he looked at me and he said, I'd love you to own it. He said, I couldn't imagine it being in better hands. I said, oh boy. I said, I better sleep on that one tonight. Woke up the next morning. He says, how'd you sleep? I said, I slept like a baby. I'm the new owner of the HEMI Under Glass.
That has to be. Do you ever just get in it and drive it down and get the mail or anything?
Well, the mailbox isn't that far away, but you don't have to go too far to get the wheels up.
That'd be so fun. You wake the whole neighborhood up. Oh, he's going to get the mail again.
Oh, yeah, it does. It'll make the neighborhood, that's for sure.
Well, now, this car is not the only. I mean, you have got a large collection of Hurst shifter cars that are. I mean, how many do you actually, the Hurst themed cars do you have?
I've got 52 Hurst vehicles total.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh.
Plus Indy pace cars.
Maybe you can get together and compare your collection, Stephen.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I've been inviting them up to Chicago to come and take a look at it.
Hey.
I'm coming. Just have to give me
We're only 5 minutes from O'Hare Airport, and we'll even pick you up.
There you go.
Hey, if you throw in a pizza, then he'll come.
Yeah, I'm all about it. He's got a restaurant with wings. I'm cool with that.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Your restaurant's
That's
actually
easy.
across from Wrigley's Field, right?
Yeah, we're directly across from Wrigley Field. You can stand outside my front door, and you're looking directly at the scoreboard of the ballpark.
I mean, that would have to be the ultimate place to have a restaurant, man, no doubt.
It really is. And if you've never been to Wrigley Field, you've never been to a ballpark. I mean, the feeling of just being in there, nostalgia, and the history is just absolutely amazing.
So, okay, let me ask you something. Tell me about the Hurst van. You've got a Hurst shifter van. What is that something y'all made, or is that actually part of the history of Hurst?
No, the Hurst, it's the Shifty Doctor van. And what they did, they had 3 of them across the country. There was one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, one in the Midwest. And what they would do, they would send a crew to the local drag strips on the weekends. And if you were having a problem with your shifter, they'd let you bring it right there. They'd rebuild it for you, and they'd send it, give it right back to you for free. They'd also send, like a big support truck out with about 6 guys if you needed something welded or something repaired. The Hurst Shifter Corporation was unbelievable at marketing, and that was one of their best marketing feats is they'd fix your car at the racetrack for nothing.
Well, you can't beat that.
No.
I mean, I'm going to tell you, talking about Hurst shifter, my daddy bought a 65 Plymouth Fury back in 1965, bought her brand new. And he could have bought a 64 Fury, but he wanted the 65 because it was it had the Hurst factory 4-speed they put in this car from the factory. And instead of buying the 64 Sports Fury that had a HEMI, but it had automatic. And I always thought, man, you know.
You know, people ask me all the time, you know, why I got into the Hurst cars and everything. And I said, you know, there's a million people out there. They're a Chevy guy, they're a Pontiac guy, they're a Mopar guy. And, you know, the Hurst cars have always really caught my eye because that is a brand that transcended over every different auto manufacturer, you know, throughout Detroit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a brand that, you know, people recognize no matter what, you know, their type of love a car is.
Right. Well, they even did it. Didn't they not do like in 1970 a Chrysler? Did they not have a Chrysler Hurst car?
Yeah, the Chrysler 300. I have one of those in my collection. I also own the only convertible that was built.
Oh, wow. That is so cool. So how did you get into cars? What got your love of cars? They had to be something that sparked. I mean, like me, of course, I was raised in cars, but I mean, what actually set you off and said, "Man, I love these. I'm gonna start collecting."
It's funny you mention that. You know, I remember when I was a little kid, I had a neighbor a couple of doors away that had a 1932 Ford, very similar to the car that was in American Graffiti.
Yeah.
And he took me for a ride in it, you know, back then. And even back then, he had a little sign on the dashboard. It said, you know, sit down, shut up, and hold on.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you know, just, you know, it wasn't the fastest car in the world, but boy, it felt like we were going a million miles an hour. And it just kind of set my sights in concrete. I don't golf, I don't gamble, but boy, I sure do love my cars.
Yeah, I can imagine that. So now how many, I mean, you've got a large collection. Can I ask you about how many, do you know how many cars you actually own?
Last I checked, I believe there's 84 total, not including our, you know, everyday driver cars.
Right.
You know.
He's got you beat, Stephen.
Yeah, probably. But his all runs and drives, man.
I don't know. He's got one heck of a Matchbox collection.
I do that. They're like brand new too, man. Never drove. I guarantee you.
Never seen rain or snow.
So do you have a favorite one other than the HEMI Under Glass? What is your, I mean, you got one like this is my favorite Hurst shifter car or my favorite car in the collection. What would it be?
Well, you know, that's like trying to pick a favorite child. And, you know, ironically, it probably wouldn't be one of the Hurst cars, and only I would have to pick my 62 Corvette because I have owned that car for 40 years.
Wow.
And, you know, last year when COVID hit, you know, my business got shut down, I decided, you know, to, you know, just spend a lot of time last year in the garage and working on cars and just taking care of stuff. And that car had been, you know, it's a completely unrestored original car in just beautiful shape. And I said, you know, I got to adjust the brakes on that car. And I put it up on the lift. And I looked at it and I said, you know, I haven't shown this car a lot of love in all these years. And, you know, the next day we had it in a million pieces.
Wow.
So I took it all apart and, you know, we're repowder coated everything on the frame and the chassis all back together. We're waiting for the body to come back from paint and, you know, just putting the car back together.
Wow. That's got to be a beautiful car.
But it's a really hard choice because I do love the Hurst brand.
Now you have the Hurst car that Linda Vaughn rode on that's got the platform on the back?
Yeah, I have the original shifter and platform that I was lucky enough to get from Doc Watson, who's, you know, the creator of the Hurst Oldsmobile and was very close with George Hurst, who was pretty much the number 2 guy there at Hurst. And this is the original platform and shifter that they originally put on back of a 66 Bonneville convertible. And I mean, it's pretty heavy duty. It's bolted to the frame. I mean, you can drive down the road with that 8-foot shifter, you know, sticking up in the air at, you know, 60 miles an hour.
Wow.
It's just a great iconic piece of history. And Doc also was, you know, kind of like a mentor to me and, you know, kind of like a father. I lost my father at a young age. You know, got the privilege to know him through Linda Vaughn.
Right.
And, you know, before he passed away, a couple of years before he passed away, he offered it to me, and it took me 2 seconds to say, yeah, I got to have that.
Oh, yeah, that would be ultimate. And like I say, I'm saying that thing's pretty sturdy because she rode on the back of it. She's pretty heavy set there, you know.
She doesn't look that heavy set to me, Stephen.
It's top heavy.
That ain't what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was actually lucky enough a couple of years ago in 2018 we had her on the back of the car at the Indy 500, and she hadn't been out there, you know, and, oh God, it was darn close to since '72, and we rode around the track and paced the lap with all the vintage race cars behind us.
Wow.
Which, you know, the '72 Hurst Oldsmobile convertible was the first non-OEM car to ever pace the Indy 500. So that was a great piece of history, and an absolute awesome day for us.
Oh, I can imagine. That'd be it. And then you actually own the car that James Garner drove, the '77 Oldsmobile that he drove in.
Yeah, I have the '77 Delta 88 convertible. It's pace car number 1. Pretty ironic piece as well. You know, James drove that, and, you know, I was lucky enough to get to meet him, but, you know, there are only 2 of those built, and I own pace car number 1, and the Indy Museum owns pace car number 2.
Wow. As
well as the '74 Hurst Olds convertible, which is also one of 2 built. We did a episode of My Classic Car with Dennis Gage, who's a close personal friend of mine as well. And you could see that on YouTube if you look up, you know, My Classic Car, Oldsmobile pace cars, where we featured both those 2 very iconic cars.
Wow. Well, you're going to be down here in Blairsville, Georgia, at the end of July, and you're going to bring the HEMI Under Glass. So we're all excited about that. So are people going to be able to touch it, or they just got to stand and look at it?
Oh, no, you'd be surprised. I let people get real close to it. It's a piece of history, and, you know, Lord knows I'm just a caretaker. And looking at people's eyes when they get to actually see the car up close, and people that remember seeing it at the drag strip, is what it's all about. You know, we had it down in Bowling Green last year, and there was a 10-year-old kid that, you know, just was absolutely in awe over the car. And I asked him, I said, "Would you like to sit in it?" He said, "Really?" I mean, his eyes were like 2 saucers. It was amazing.
Right.
And I let him sit in the car. I said, "All right, now get ready." I said, "You're going to start it."
Oh, Lord.
And he looked at me, and he looked at his parents, and he looked at me, and I looked at his parents. I said, "It'd be okay if he starts it." And they're like, "Yeah." Boy, I'll tell you, we cranked that thing over, and when it fired up, I've got the video. It's hilarious. I mean, his parents jumped. You would have thought that he was just, you know, on cloud 9. It was just.
Well, you do realize
that for me,
that probably 30 years from now, he's going to be talking on a radio show saying, "Yeah, well, I found my love for cars one day when this guy let me fire up HEMI Under Glass, and I've been a car collector ever since."
And honestly, that's what it's all about. Yeah. That's about passing it on to the next generations. You know, people say, "Is this car hobby going to die?" And, you know, I honestly don't believe it. I think the love for the automobile will always be around. Electric cars or no electric cars. We'll figure out how to make fuel, and I'm sure we can get some fuel up there at the moonshine.
Yeah, we can burn some moonshine.
Let that thing run.
That might have been what they was burning in that thing when Jay Leno was in it. That's might have been when it flipped over. But anyway, Joe, we got to get to a break, man. I am so much looking forward to seeing that car over at the Moonshine Cruise Inn.
You know he's going to want to sit in it and start it now. You've opened the door.
Can I crank it?
Yeah. He's too old to start it.
Hey, I identify as 13 years old.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Hey,
thanks. Yeah,
we'll be seeing you, man. We'll be seeing you. Thank you so much.
All right.
Oh.
Thank you for spending a little time with us. And remember, you can tune in every morning at WJULradio.com at 8 a.m. Eastern. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook, The Morning Dish.